Hey, welcome back into Shopfix, a community joined together for the love of woodworking. I have found the rabbet joint to be a simple yet effective joint for all sorts of woodworking projects, so let's get right into it. Shopfix, for the love of woodworking. When cutting a rabbet out on the miter saw, you want to be sure that the length of the board is at its final crosscut length. Now that we have this board at its final crosscut length, we're going to have to set the depth stop on our miter saw, which is going to be the depth of our rabbet cut. If you're not familiar with using a depth stop, I recommend measuring it and cutting it out on a test board before your final piece. To enable your miter saw to make a perfectly flat rabbet cut, you have to put an auxiliary fence behind the board that you want to cut so that blade can spin to its lowest point and actually cut it out flat. Now, if your miter saw doesn't have the large cross-cutting capacity as this miter saw, you could flip the boards to have access to the back side of the rabbet cut. When using a miter saw, the blade position is going to equal the length of the rabbet inset, and the depth stop is going to be what controls the rabbet depth. You can see me here making my first pass to get the length of the rabbet correct. Now, after you have that cut out, all you have to simply do is shimmy the board to the left so that your blade can cut left to right, and you'll just be cutting kerf by kerf until you reach the edge of the board. Now that we have the rabbet cut out on this first board, I want to show you the technique and the process that I go through to cut out any subsequent boards at this same depth. So for starters, we're going to leave on the auxiliary fence on the miter saw, and then we're going to simply release that depth stop but keep the measurement the same, so when we apply it again, it'll be the exact same depth. Now, with the auxiliary fence still attached, we can make the final crosscut to this board before our rabbet cuts. With this board cut to its final length, we can now reapply that depth stop, and that measurement is going to be the exact same as we did previously. Now we're going to make the first pass on this rabbet cut to get the length of the rabbet correct. After completing this first rabbet cut, we can work the blade left to right to begin cutting kerfs until we complete the rabbet cut. Now that we have all these rabbet cuts complete, I want to show you how to create a rabbet joint and glue it all together. The first step when completing a rabbet joint is making sure that your adjoining pieces to the rabbets are cut to the correct size, and you're going to have to take into account the depth of the rabbet cut as well as the length of the rabbet cut to make sure that all your pieces fit appropriately for your project. Now, these rabbet cuts may not sit flush right off the miter saw, so you may need to file them to get them smooth or to take off a little bit of the wood so they fit perfectly. Once you've cleaned up your rabbet cuts with a file or sandpaper, now you can test for flushness. Once the rabbeted board and the adjoining board sit flush together at the rabbet joint, you know you're ready to clamp it up and glue it all together. We'll be using wood glue to secure these rabbet joints, which is typically pretty common with this woodworking joint. Once you have an ample amount of glue applied and spread around in your rabbet cut, you can attach it to the adjoining boards. I really hope you enjoyed this Shopfix video, and if you want more content like this, subscribe to the Shopfix channel. Well, I better get back in the shop, but thanks for watching, and until next time, have fun with your Shopfix.